Good morning, you fantastic people. All right, today's lesson is 6-3A, because there's going to be a B and there's going to be a C, so it's almost like 3 parts. But this is what we're going to call examine elimination. And here's going to be the biggest word that we're going to want to look for over the next 3 videos, is the word opposites, right? Now, I know most of you know what the word opposite means, but when you actually try to define it, it becomes kind of hard. So I went ahead and wrote down the definition of what an opposite is and why we're going to be using opposites today in our math. So make sure that you do hit pause at some point, copy this down. But what is an opposite? It's pretty simple. Most of you guys know it. It's just like I said, it's hard to put in words. It's the same number, right? 2 and 2, same number, but with different signs, right? One's negative, one's positive. So same number, different signs. Pretty easy concept, but this is why they're so important in math. We use opposites because they always add up to 0, right? Add, not times or subtract, but add. So negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. 53 plus a negative 53, 0. And it even extends to the alphabet. A negative x plus an x will equal a 0. And you see how I did not put 0x. It just means 0. Well, the reason we are doing that is this 0 allows us to eliminate, and that's what we're going to be doing in today's lesson. So again, make sure that this is copied down. I'm going to put up some steps and our first example. I know it might be hard to read this, but that's on purpose. I first want you to write down these steps over to the side of your paper. Right? So number 1 is look for opposites. Number 2 is add like terms. And if we do this right, that's going to end up eliminating one of the variables. Okay? Step 3, we have to solve for the remaining variable. Step 4, substitute our answer back into the equation. And number 5, solve for the second variable. So it might sound confusing, but get that copied down. So hit pause right now, and then I'm going to start solving this one. All right, so here's number 1, right? So here's our system of equations, right? It's a system because there's 2 equations. So we have a 3x minus a 3y equals 6. We have a 3x plus 3y equals 0, right? Now, here's why we're going to use, why we call this elimination, is we need to eliminate either the x or the y. We can't have an x and a y in our problem. We have to get rid of one of them. We can only solve for one variable. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look for opposites. Now, this happens to be a plus 3. But we look for opposites. Well, this is a positive 3x, and that's a positive 3x. These are not opposites. They're the same number, but they're not different signs. This is a positive 3, that's a negative 3. So we have the same number, the both 3, and they're different signs. So always circle your opposites. Right? So always circle those opposites. Now remember, the reason we like opposites is because they add up to 0 or they eliminate. So that brings us to step number 2, add up our like terms. So right underneath this, these are both constants, plain numbers, add them up, 6 plus 0 is 6. Remember, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. You don't have to show me that. These actually get eliminated. So we add up 3x plus 3x and we get 6x, right? So these actually end up becoming eliminated. And, see, eliminates one variable. We got rid of the letter y. So, step 3, we solve for the remaining. Well, now we're going to solve for x. Now this is pretty easy. We just got to divide by 6, and x equals 1. Now this is only half of our answer. So that brings us down to step 4. Substitute the answer back into the equation. So watch. It does not matter which one you pick. I'm just going to pick the bottom one because it has no minus in it. And I'm going to write it over here. 3x plus 3y equals 0. I'm going to take my answer that I just found for x, and I'm going to plug it into this x up here. Because by doing that, watch, 3 times 1 plus 3y equals 0. Well, what does that do? It gets rid of that variable. So well, now I can solve for the letter y. So I go 3 times 1 is 3 plus 3y equals 0. I have a two-step equation, so I'm going to minus 3 from both sides. 0 and negative 3 just stays negative 3. That falls down. Divide by 3 to get the y by itself, and y equals negative 1. So my answer, right, my answer is actually this. 1, comma, negative 1. Right? Because, remember, when you have a system, the previous lesson we did graphing. And where did the graphs cross? At 1 point. So even though we're not graphing, our answers still have to look the same. Where we are, our answer is a point on a graph. So make sure that you do get all this copied down, right? Go through the steps as you're watching this, right? And I'll set us up for example number 2. All right, so here's our example 2. It reads 4x plus 3y equals 7. And then the second equation is negative 4x plus y equals 5. So there's our system of equations. And I just kind of condensed our steps. But again, first step, always look for opposites, right? Well, that's a positive 4x, and that's a negative 4x. So guess what? This time, my x's happen to be my opposites. So circle your opposites. Now, after we do that, we're just going to basically, step 2, add up our like terms. Well, these are our constants, right? 7 plus 5 is 12. That's 3 y's or 3 yo-yos plus another yo-yo. We have 4 yo-yos. And again, the reason we like opposites is because they add up to 0 or they eliminate. So at this step, all we have to do is divide by 4, and that gets us the answer for our y term. So we go 12 divided by 4, and y equals 3. Now, with that being said, we move on to, that was step 3, so that little bit of solving. But step 4, we got to plug this back in to one of these equations. It does not matter which one. So again, I'm just going to pick the bottom one this time. So I'm going to go negative 4x plus y equals 5. So again, when I say plug it in, instead of, I'm going to put this 3 where the y used to be. So it's going to be negative 4x plus 3 equals 5. So again, two-step equation, minus the 3 from both sides. We get a 2. If negative 4x falls down, I divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. And if you type this into the calculator, 2 divided by negative 4, it will spit out negative 1/2. And again, to really get our answer, we have to put these two numbers together so it looks like a point. So right in the middle, the x always goes first. Not which one you find first. The x goes first. So it's negative 1/2, comma, 3. And that is your answer for this system of equations, right? So make sure that you do hit pause and get all this written down, and we'll probably do just one more example. All right, so here is our third example and our last example. It's 4x minus y equals 1 and 3x plus y equals 13. I still have my little steps written over there. So again, step 1, look for opposites. Well, we have that 4x and 3x. No, they're not opposites. They're not even the same number. But then over here I have a negative y and a plus y. Those are opposites. Yeah, they're not numbers, but remember from the beginning of the notes, if it's the same thing, different signs. So what is my opposites? These two are. So if you see a negative y and a plus y, they're opposites. Step 2, like terms. So 1 plus 13, 14. These are 0, so they're gone. They're eliminated. And we have 4x plus 3x is 7x, right? I don't know if you see a pattern, but when you have elimination, basically it just turns into a one step, and we're basically dividing every time. Divide by 7, divide by 7, x equals 2, right? So that brings us to step number 4. Take the x this time and plug it back into one of the equations. So let's go 4x minus y equals 1. Remember, I'm going to put this up there where the x is. So 4 times my 2 minus 1 equals, minus y equals 1. 4 times 2 is 8 minus y equals 1. Again, now it's just a two-step equation. Minus the 8, minus the 8. And we got negative y. And that's going to add up to a negative 7. And remember, if you have a negative in front, it's just the same thing as dividing by a negative 1 to get rid of it. Negative 1 and y equals 7. You're not quite done yet. Put them together. 2, 7. That is your answer. That is the end of this lesson. Make sure that you do have time. You have this all written down. Listen to the examples and be thankful for opposites. It makes this much easier to do, because in the next lessons, what happens if we don't have opposites? All right, so until next time, have a math-tastic day.